Welcome to the Intern Academy Gradcast. It's the culmination and continuation of decades of ministry being poured into each new generation. Listen in to intern graduates from all generations and learn what it really means to be a part of this pipeline of leadership that is changing the world one internship at a time.
What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Gradcast. As always, I'm joined by my co-hosts, Maddie Jensen and Matthew Blackwood. And I'm Abby, I should probably say that. How are you guys doing?
Doing good.
Fantastic.
Amazing. And we're also here with David Sanchez. David, what's up?
Hello, how's it going?
Good. How are you? I just asked how you're doing. So sorry, guys. I'm trying to get back into the swing of things here. Well, yeah, David, thank you so much for joining us. We're super excited to get to chat with you and kind of talk about tonight's topic, which is what it looks like to balance it all, balance things in ministry. But before we kind of jump into all that stuff, we want to just start off with the question that has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but honestly, one that is really important in this world. And so, Matthew, you want to go ahead and ask it for us?
Absolutely. So I don't know if you remember, a couple years ago, there was a debate question that was trending all over social media.
Okay.
Do you personally believe, believe with all your heart, is there more wheels in the world than there are doors? Or do you believe that there are more doors than there are wheels?
Ooh, man. I remember, 'cause I think I was still in youth ministry when that question was trending. And so at one point I got really nerdy into it. And I'm like, well, technically, if you define doors as this, then that. But now that it's been a couple of years and a bunch of other trends have come and I forgot about that one, I'd probably just have to say doors because, I don't know, doors are important and there's a lot of them in the world. So sure, doors.
Okay. So not that you're wrong, but I'm just kidding. But okay, hold on. I feel like we got to get into this for a second. Matthew, I feel like you had a good answer about the wheels thing because you're wheels, right? Team wheels?
Yes, I'm team wheels. And my first evidence for that is the room that I am in right now. You can see that there is only one door in the whole office, but I have one chair right there. I'm sitting on one, and I have a couple other wheelchairs, and each chair has 5 wheels on it.
Okay.
So to this room ratio, and not gonna lie, actually probably the rest of this building ratio, this room has more wheels than this whole building does have doors.
Fair.
And also conveyor belts have quite a lot of like little mini wheels too. So to move along, I'm thinking I'm team wheels.
Okay.
Fair. Good line of logic.
Okay, but then on the other hand, doors. Okay, like every car, every mode of transportation, there's going to be a door. Also, are there more buildings in the world than there are cars / number of wheels?
And by door, do we just mean like the actual part on the threshold there, or is the threshold itself the door?
I don't know.
Or a cabinet? Is a cabinet a door?
A cabinet could be a door.
See, I'm not gonna lie, I would count a cabinet as a door. I think all doors are anything that has a hinge on it.
Anything with a hinge.
But that's also me personally. Since I didn't come up with the trend, I could be wrong. But
I think that like if a conveyor belt is wheels, then a cabinet can be a door. You know?
Exactly. Yeah.
That's fair. That's fair. Okay.
One of my students had brought it up when we were arguing about this. You have to look at the movie Monsters, Inc. All of those doors,
it's doors.
But all of those doors are moved by a set of 4 wheels on a conveyor belt. All I'm saying.
But hey, depending on how you use them, windows can be doors too.
Okay, wait, yes. Guys, okay, my life is a lie.
So is a door technically anything you can walk through? Because I mean, at this point, like anything's a door. I think I'm gonna say team door. I'm gonna say team door. Just
now I was team wheels, but maybe I'm team door. I don't know. I feel like we need to do a really big deep dive into this and then like in a couple episodes come back and be like, okay guys, so here's the research we did. It's fine. We're getting off topic at this point. David, thank you for joining us. Like I said, tonight's topic is gonna be what it looks like to balance everything in ministry and also being a person. And so before we also get into that, will you just kind of tell us a little bit about who you are, your IA story, and just kind of what you're doing now?
Sure thing. So I first got connected to IA really this last year. I've done an internship before back in 2020, and that was during the pandemic. But that was before the church that I'm currently at had gotten involved with the Intern Academy. So for me, it's been really interesting to see the difference between doing an internship with IA and without IA.
Yeah.
And to be honest, like IA is so much better. I love what we got going on with IA. It's been a blast. My first time ever just connecting with IA people was at the retreat this last year. And it's just really cool to see the amount of fellowship that's had with other people who are like-minded going into ministry. And that's been great. But a little about me, I kind of been always called, I've always sensed a call to ministry. My mom always says that since I could speak, I'd always say that I want to be a pastor when I grow up. So that's kind of just always stayed true for me. But really in 2016 at the International Youth Convention in San Antonio is when that was just solidified. And that very year, I started Bible studies in my high school and with my friends from youth group. And I've just always been doing like little ministry stuff. And so I'm really excited to now be a part of IA and just be surrounded with people who are like-minded and, you know, just doing it all for the kingdom. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's really cool to hear your story and thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's just kind of jump into it. So balance in ministry. I feel like it's something that is either never talked about or talked about a lot now and can be more of a
Yeah.
quote unquote hot topic.
Mhm.
So, kind of just for anyone to answer, when you think about what it looks like to balance ministry slash just, you know, not getting burnt out, balancing all the things that you have to do, while also being open to, okay, I have to serve, okay, like, and not even that I have to, I get to. What kind of comes to mind? Do you guys have any stories or maybe experiences of this in your own life or someone you know?
Mm. I think for me, what's hard is because for me, I'm a very social person. And so I get really connected at my church and really involved. And it's like, well, I want to invite everybody to everything that I do now.
Yep.
And so one of the things that God's kind of put on my heart lately is to just find one spot, one little place in my life where I just defend that. And that's my solo space to be with Jesus. So for me lately, that's been the gym. When I was in high school and when I first started in college, every morning I'd go with friends to the gym, or in the afternoons, I'd have some gym buddies and we'd all go and hang out together. But since I've been really involved in ministry lately, God says, hey, David, first thing in the morning, if you're going to the gym, give me that time. That way you can focus on me and recharge here. And then you can go out and do whatever it is you want to do, you know?
I love that. That's something that, yeah, no, the whole I want to do everything with everyone, I feel
Yeah.
like is so real. Did you have a moment specifically? Like I know you said you kind of felt the Lord telling you that, but maybe even an experience specifically that kind of made you have that shift into no, it's okay and it's good to focus in on this one area rather than a bunch. If not, it's
I,
fine. I was just curious.
Yeah, I think for me, it's I've always kind of wrestled with mental health. Depression and anxiety have kind of been big factors in my life. And this last year, my depression just got really, really rough. And thank God, you know, he pulled me through it and God's been there all the way through. But I think that a lot of that came from just kind of overloading myself, because something about me is along with ministry and school, I also like to make music. I'm something of a recording artist. I'm working on getting my stuff out on Spotify, and I always have all these little side projects that I'm trying to do. And I just ended up burning myself out. And it wasn't even ministry that was overwhelming me. It was just me wanting to do more on top of that, you know? And God finally said, hey, David, slow down. You're 24 years old. You got plenty of time to do all this stuff you want to do, you know? So really this last year, God's really gotten a hold of me over that.
It's really good. I think that's something too I wish I could just have plastered, not on my face, but just I could see it all the time is we are, and I know this isn't the case for everyone listening, but it probably is for them, even if they don't think it. Like we are so young, and
Yeah.
so it's okay, and it's like gonna be so much more worthwhile to take things one day at a time
Yeah.
and really give it to the Lord in between then. And so that's really good. Matthew and Maddie, what do you guys think?
Yeah, I really think that like this is something that I've struggled with like in the past, but I think God's really worked on it with me these past like the past year or so. I think really just because I remember there was a time where like people would ask me like, what do you like to do as a person, not in ministry, like totally separate from that. And I really wouldn't know how to answer that question. And if I did, it wouldn't be something that I was doing constantly for like I would say hiking, but I probably back then I went hiking maybe once every season. So like I don't really consider that now balancing at all. But I think God's just really worked on me like being able to say no, finding what I
Yep.
like, and enjoying that process. Like I love the outdoors, so I try to get outside, about once or twice a week, just spending time with God, not doing anything related to ministry. And then just like small things, like I really like to do painting and stuff like that. Like the self-care aspect of that is what's hard for me to balance, I guess. And I know it's different for like everybody, but I've found that like the more I focus on that self-care, like the more intimate my time is with God because when it's so fast-paced in ministry, like you're not even a person at that point. You know what I mean? Like you just feel numb to like, and it kind of like hinders God from, really speaking to you if you're caught up. So this is something like, man, self-care is amazing. Learning how to balance things is amazing. And we're never perfect at it. Like I'm still working on it too. So
Yeah.
what about you, Matthew?
It's a little this was a little bit of a harder topic for me, not gonna lie, because I suck at balancing everything. Like whether it's my personal life, my work life, my ministry life. But one thing that I think that God has taken me through the season of learning is putting up boundaries for myself, making sure that, okay, I know that I need to work these days, and I know that I need to be at the church these days, and these are my 2 days that I have off. All right, I need to stop trying to schedule myself to just have something every day and allow myself to just step into the presence of the Lord and refuel and allow myself to just kind of degress. Wow, English. Just be able to like de-stress and allow myself to kind of look over the last couple of days, making sure that everything still blends together the way that it's supposed to.
So I love that you mentioned boundaries because I was gonna ask a question about it. So this is just a question for anybody. Are boundaries selfish? What are we?
Ooh.
Hot topic.
Question.
Hot topic. Think about, all the angles of what others think, others see, but especially being in ministry from an outside person looking in. Are boundaries selfish?
It sounds controversial to say, but like, no, well, I feel like yes and no. It's kind of like self-care. I hear people say that. I hear people kind of frown on self-care sometimes, even from the Christian tradition, saying that like, well, self-care is idolatry, and like I don't know if y'all have heard stuff like that, but the truth is, like, Bible says, love others as yourself. That means you got to love yourself to some degree, right? And to a certain degree, or I had a professor who always used to say, for some of us, if we were to actually love our neighbors as ourselves, we'd be convicted of crimes. The truth is we have to genuinely care for ourselves and love others by taking care of ourselves in that way, because we're giving everybody the worst of ourselves if we're constantly burning ourselves out and just allowing ourselves to be exhausted.
Come on. That's so
Yeah.
good. Maddie, go ahead.
Oh, you're good. I think sometimes you have to ask too, like, what's the intent of that boundary? It's
Mhm.
like, if you're just getting offended and you're like, I'm gonna set up a boundary with this person because they offended me, then I don't think that boundary. I think that is a little selfish, but
Yeah.
I think that if you're like, no, this is a boundary I have, and it's like you've thought about it, prayed about it, then I think that's perfectly fine. That's not selfish at all.
That's actually so good because I feel like, so I don't know if you guys have heard of the book Boundaries. And also, like, sorry, I realize I might have sounded controversial when I asked the question. I think boundaries, exactly what you said, David. It's like, yes and no, we need them in order to love others. But yeah, this book Boundaries, it's by John Townsend. It's like a classic kind of, I don't know when it was written, like late 90s, but and it's written from like the perspective of being a Christian, like what do boundaries look like? But I've heard a lot of people that kind of like talk about that book, but then take it and exactly what you said, Maddie. It's like, well, like I'm offended by this person, or like I need to take care of myself, like too much to where it's like it's now selfish. And so I was just curious what you guys thought about boundaries in general, because I feel like that's one of the biggest struggles in ministry is, at what point do you stop, like what point do you say no, because like if we're trying to balance 1,000 things, it's like, okay, at what point do I say yes, like of course I can also do this and serve in this way or stay late on this day, but then it's like every week multiple times, and you know I don't know, I'm just curious y'all's thoughts on that.
Yeah.
I think it comes with also like kind of like what it's for, like we've all mentioned. Like, how do I word it? If it's to guard your heart and to strengthen you to either grow closer to the Lord or to benefit those that are around you so that the community can stay strong, I think that's when boundaries are really important to have. But like kind of like Maddie said, like if it's really just for yourself because like you either like got offended or you just are like giving up in a way, I think that's when like it becomes selfish because you're not allowing God to push you to your full ability that he knows that you're able to do. I mean, because we've all heard it and we know it that God only throws at you what you can handle. Even if you think that that is too much, God knows that you can handle it. So, kind of putting up a boundary just to quote unquote protect yourself, I feel like that's when it becomes selfish.
That's good.
That's a good question, Abby. That was that was good.
I think I went through a season, and I have to check myself all the time, where I really did the whole I had just experienced a season of yes to everything. My heart was in a place where I was like, yes, I want to help people, but also in a place of like, oh, like they'll like me more if I do, you know what I mean? And so, but then I was trying to unlearn that. I'm reading these books and everyone's like, take care of yourself. Then I went through a season of like, no, like it's me and Jesus. I can say no. So now we're also trying to unlearn that. Just all the fun things. But so all that to say, I think it's always interesting to see kind of like really what others think about it, because I think it's something that I don't know, we probably all wrestle with. It's hard. So I let me see. What was I was gonna ask a question. I'm trying to remember. Sorry, guys. So do you, David, or just anyone in general, have any, it can be resources such as like a book, a podcast, or even just like daily practices, disciplines that you have, like David, I know you mentioned kind of focusing on one area, like you and time with the Lord, with the gym specifically you had mentioned, but do you guys have any other things just so for our listeners that they can kind of take away from and like, oh, this is something I could do if I'm struggling with balancing?
Yeah, I think I mentioned back in 2016 at IYC is when I felt my call to ministry. When I was there, I actually had a friend with me who also felt that same call to ministry, and he was the one that helped me with the Bible studies we do during high school and stuff like that. We're doing it together. And to this day, we stay in close contact, and we do something that we call fruit checks. The Bible says good trees have good fruits, bad trees have bad fruits. So we call each other up regularly and say, "Hey, man, let me check your fruit. How's your fruit doing?"
Mm.
And
That's
the
good.
way we structured it is we ask 3 questions usually: How's your week? How's your walk? How is work? And
Ooh.
that's just a good way that we get to talking about the real things. And because he does the social media and graphics for my home church back in New Mexico, and I'm over here interning doing the similar thing. And so we're able to kind of compare, contrast. Okay, you're dealing with this. You're getting tired here. Maybe you can help me here. I can help you there. And that's just one rhythm that I've established the last few years. That's been really helpful for me with not just balancing it, but really in terms of, you know, trying to continue to grow and trying to, stay on my Bible study times, stay on my prayer life. It's just been a really helpful thing doing these fruit checks.
Mm.
Mm,
I love
that's
that.
good.
Mm.
I'm gonna throw another question at you, but kind of go off of what you just said. Kind of like having that accountability buddy to like
Mm.
kind of like lift each other up and everything. I mean, the answer is kind of like obvious there, but like at the same time, I think this could be different for other people, depending on whether you're an extrovert or an introvert, or just how you kind of like work with holding yourself accountable to balancing everything.
Mm.
But do you find it easier for yourself to kind of keep everything balanced when you are working alone and have like some resources, like every once in a while a friend checks in and you guys talk everything out? Or is it something where like you have to do it by yourself and like you follow these steps and you have like the resources that come in every once in a while, but are you more of like the community person or like the person who is strengthened by the alone? And
Mm.
whichever one you are, how would you portray that to somebody else that didn't understand it so that they can adapt and kind of learn from that point of view as well?
Mm. That's a good question. And it's kind of a hard one for me to answer, to be honest, because I don't know if y'all know your Myers-Briggs types, but I'm a INTP. But every time I take it, I switch between what's it called? T and F, or not T and F, I and E. Like sometimes I'm in,
Interesting.
sometimes I
Mm.
take the test and I'm
Huh.
extroverted. Other times I'm introverted. And to
Yeah.
this day, I'm not really sure. Like, hey, which one really am I? But one thing that I heard a preacher talking about a while ago was that what Jesus models for us in Scripture is this push and pull of I'm in community with my disciples, and then now I'm spending alone time just to be with the Father. And
Mm.
I think I've kind of unintentionally fallen into that pattern of like having one season in which I'm constantly around people and another season in which I'm constantly by myself. But I found that just the push and pull of, okay, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, I'm going to spend a lot of time with a lot of people, but Friday, Saturday, I have to be alone by myself. Just establishing that push and pull rhythm has really been what's been most beneficial to me. But I don't know, everybody's wired a little differently, so it's kind of hard to say.
Yeah. Because I know, especially like with this generation, I feel this upcoming generation, I feel like everybody is like split right down the middle. Like
Mhm.
Yep.
you're either an introvert or you're an extrovert. Like these new students, they don't know how to mix it and to blend it together.
Mm.
And I find it a little challenging for myself because I'm a full extrovert. Like I hate being alone. My only alone time that I want is when I am getting ready for bed.
Mm.
I am sleeping and dreaming about all the good things the Lord can do for me, and my drives back home after work. Every other
Mm.
time, like I want to be surrounded by people. And for me personally, I've seen it that I work best and keep all my things balanced when I have that community surrounding me.
Mm.
Um, because I do fall victim under not being able to hold accountability when
Mm.
it comes to that self-care. And my friends will come in, they're like, Matthew, you have worked like 7 days straight and you have gotten maybe like 2 hours of sleep each night. It's time for you to separate for a little bit and step into the spirit and let him guide you and step into that rest with the Lord. So, I was hoping to get like a good point of view, and I did. And now I'm out of my question.
I think that's really good, David, what you said. I mean, really, Jesus did. It was a push and pull. There was never one or the other. And I think that's why us also as humans are probably going through seasons where it's one or the other. And because I mean, we're never gonna have it perfect like he did. And so I think it's like you said, just about finding that balance of that and being able to, you know, I mean, just kind of know. I feel like to the older and more experiences we have, we kind of realize, okay, maybe I need like just me and Jesus tonight. Or like, no, I need to, have a fruit check with someone,
Yeah.
So I think that's really good. I love the fruit check thing, by the way. I'm like, I need to start doing that. That's awesome.
And it makes me think also like so another thing I do on the side, I'm a barista. I work at a coffee shop here in Dallas.
Okay.
And I've always kind of been in and out of the coffee industry. I love coffee.
That's awesome.
Oh, that's cool.
And so the machine that we use for our espresso at the coffee shop that I'm at, it has 2 group heads, so you can pull shots out of both sides, but it's a fully automatic machine with a digital panel, and it has like a little seesaw like picture on the screen to kind of let you know, hey, make sure you use both sides so that way one doesn't get really dirty really quickly. And I get kind of like picky with it because every time that it's flat, I get so upset that I have to use one side and now it's uneven. I try to keep it as even as possible. But I realized not too long ago, like, hey, that's what balancing is, right? It's that push and pull. You slide one direction, then you even it out. And it's not always going to be completely flat. And so I think sometimes when it comes to ministry too, like there are going to be weeks in which you're throwing in 60 hours and it's a lot. I mean, you ever done youth camp? It's going to be tiring,
There's no boundaries there.
For real. But that just means you have to rest even harder right after that, that just means you have to seek God even more to come and fill you up, and it's just being mindful of where you're at and how much you need to lean back the other direction.
That's so good. And I honestly am wow, that's just so good. Sorry. I'm like, whew. Yeah. Honestly, we're actually out of time. So David, I think that's really a perfect way to end. So thank you so much just for kind of sharing about your own experience with balancing things in ministry and life and just your walk with the Lord. Yeah, really good stuff. I'm very encouraged just as, it's something that I feel like I'm struggling with now and probably, will for the rest of my life. But again, it's not about being perfect, but kind of balancing it, like you said, and just learning to become more like Jesus. So,
absolutely.
Do you guys have any last things, any last questions, thoughts?
I think David's gonna have to make us a coffee next time.
I know.
I got you. I'll bring my pour over thing.
Yeah, and I want to hear like your music on Spotify and that, like all the things. Like
I'll send you the link when it's out.
Okay. We'll drop it in the IA podcast. It'll be great. Well, David, thank you so much for joining us. And to our listeners, thank you just for taking the time. And we hope this was encouraging to you. And we will see you guys next time on another episode of the Gradcast. Peace.
Bye.